Honor to the Most High Yah by way of Yahushua HaMashiach. John 5:39. What are you doing, Potty? Do you sit on that table? No, you do not. Come here, Potty. Come here, Potty. Come here. Stand up. Go. John 5:39. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And you would not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you that you have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in my Father's name, and you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one of another, and seek not the honor that comes from Elohim only? And that's what we always need to be focused on and worry about, is seeking the honor of Elohim only. 1 Kings chapter 16, I think we was up on to Omri at that particular time. As we've been noticing and seeing, and also with majority of these kings who we've been reading about, remember that Asa reigned for 41 years, and most of these wicked kings of Yasharal, their rulership overlapped his. Now, of course, we've seen that Asa ended up going down because he trusted in man versus trusting in Elohim. And that's the one thing that you had to sit back and look at. Even with your own self, do you trust in man or do you trust in Elohim? Do you seek your will or do you seek his will? Do you seek what you want or do you seek what he wants? When you get into trouble, will you seek for a man to deliver you or will you seek for the Yahuwah to deliver you? And there's a couple of instances, and we're going to see this, Yah willing, that time go past as we go through this particular matter, that there have been times where Yah has delivered people in certain situations and circumstances, and that they had totally forgot about that and sat and leaned back on the things of man or worshiped the gods of the people who he destroyed, who didn't even have the power to deliver the people of whom this king destroyed. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of us will tend to do that. That we seek for people to satiate and make us feel better in certain situations and circumstances instead of leaning on Yah. Just like Darius just asked about why, like when Elijah asked to die, he asked to die for a specific reason. One, Jezebel had been killing all the prophets of Yahuwah at this particular time, which most high willing we will see on the Shabbat. So therefore he felt like he was the only one left, and rightfully so, that he could have that type of thought process, because she was slaughtering them by the 50s, by the numbers. You know what I'm saying? Rapidly and repeatedly she was slaying them. On top of the fact that the children of Yasharal were departing, and he was jealous and zealous for Yahuwah's name, and therefore tried to stand in the gap to call the people to repent and to turn, and the people chose to reject that, even after what he did in 1 Kings chapter 18, which we'll be dealing with that as well. So he got very stressful, and he felt like he was alone, and therefore he wanted to leave this planet, leave this earth. He no longer had a desire to live. That's why he sent a Malakim to strengthen him, which goes on along the lines of why the book tell you that two is better than one. And also another reason why this man tell you that it's not good for man to be alone and make him a helpmeet. You know what I'm saying? No matter how we feel like in this lifetime, we are not meant to navigate through life by yourself. You know what I'm saying? That's just not how the man set it up. You're not meant to navigate through this life by yourself. And that's why you see people deal with a lot of things and act the way that they act, because they try to navigate through life by themselves, either by choice or because people just forsake them and have no choice, no desire to join themselves to them. But we'll look at that as time goes on. 1 Kings chapter 16, verse 21. It says, Then were the people of Yasharal divided into two parts. Half of the people followed Tibni, the son of Ganath, to make him Malik, and half followed Omri. But the people that followed Omri prevailed against the people that followed Tibni, the son of Ganath. So Tibni died, and Omri reigned. I think we did deal with that on the Shabbat. I can't remember, because that young man had us all over the place. Well, we could have got a lot of stuff completed a little further down the line. Hold on for a second, let me so. Yeah, we did deal with that, so we don't have to repeat that. In the 30th and first year of Asa, Malik of Yehuda began Omri to reign over Yasharal. Hold on, what are you doing all that yelling for? Let's go. 12 years Omri began to reign over Yasharal 12 years. 6 years he reigned in Tisra. And he bought the hill of Samaria of Shemer for 2 talents of silver, and built on the hill, and called the name of the city which he built after the name of Shemer, owner of the hill, Samaria. So we're going to look at this hill which he purchased. And he bought the hill of Samaria. And Samaria is in Ephraim, if my memory serves me correctly. And Samaria name means Watch Mountain. And it's in northern Palestine. And this is where most of them, that's the capital city. You know what I'm saying? This is the opposite of Jerusalem. This is where they sat back and they reigned in the northern kingdom, was in Samaria. So I want you to pause for a second. We talked about this a little bit on a couple weeks ago, but we're going to do it again. Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 17. We're going to just do it again. For anybody who didn't hear it or didn't know, just going to do it again. So now you can understand why Samaria. So when we go through this and you notice and you hear Samaria mentioned, and Samaria is always mentioned, and Samaria is always mentioned, this is why it is mentioned, because Samaria is the equivalent of Jerusalem to the northern kingdom. It's the equivalent. And you also going to hear about certain cities of worship that were equivalent to Jerusalem in the northern kingdom as well. And hopefully y'all willing, we finna get ready to cross-reference everything in Hosea and Amos, and a lot of places that are cross-referenced with these gentlemen. Hold on. Hello? 2 Kings 17. Hello? What's going on with you, man? So we're looking at verse. We done dealt with this before, but we're gonna read it again. 2 Kings chapter 17. Even though it's starting with Ahaz, we'll look at about verse 3. And we'll eventually come back to Ahaz, and eventually. Against him came up Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, and Hoshea became his servant, and gave him presents. And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers. So the king of Mizraim, and brought no present to the king of Assyria, as he done year by year. Therefore the kings of Assyria shut him up, and bound him in prison. Then the king of Assyria came up through all the land, and went up to Samaria, and besieged it 3 years. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria, and carried Yasharal away into Assyria, and placed them in Elah, and in Habor by the river Gozan, and in the city of Medes. For it was so that the children of Yasharal had sinned against Yahuwah their Elohim, which had brought them up out of the land of Mizraim from under the hand of Pharaoh Malek of Mizraim, and feared other gods, and walked in the statutes of the heathen, whom Yahuwah had cast out from before the children of Yasharal, and of the Maleks of Yasharal which they had made. And the children of Yasharal did secretly those things which were not right against their Yahuwah their Elohim, and they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city. Now that's the key thing what we want to focus on. He said they did those things secretly that were not right. Now, before we go any further, let me pull this verse for secretly. Just real quick, like, make sure I'm in the right verse, verse 9. I'm going to try to speed this up, because it's one particular thing we got to get to when we go to dealing with old Ahab. And that word is kapha, and it means strictly to cover. Now, let's go to Sunday, Luke chapter 12. See, the thing was, is Yasharal's skirt still ended up getting pulled for the things that they secretly tried to do. Luke 12:1, that they tried to do. And that can go to sit back and look at when you think about that book of Ezekiel, I think chapter 8 or 9, when he showed him all the things that the people were doing. I guess we'll sit back and look at that too. It's no different than what David did. People like to do things secretly that they have no business doing, and you think that you're getting away with it. It's a passage in the book where it say, Yah has forsaken the earth. He don't see it, so you go try to do it. But the secret things get hidden. Matter of fact, I'm thinking about something right there. Hold on. In the meantime, when they were gathered, this is Luke 12:1, gathered together innumerable multitude of people, insomuch that they trode one upon another. He began to say unto his disciples, first of all, beware ye of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. Therefore whatsoever you have spoken in darkness shall be heard in the light, and that which you have spoken in the ear in closets shall be proclaimed upon the housetops. So he's sitting here telling you that anything that you've done that you think you hiding, it's going to come to the light. I think that's Psalm 17 that I desire. Let's come to Psalm 17. And after Psalm 17, 2 Corinthians chapter 5. And after 2 Corinthians chapter 5, Revelation chapter 20. This man said there's nothing that you can do that's not going to be hid, that you think you hiding. It's like, no, it's going to be brought to the light. I think that is not what I want. Psalm 17 does not look like that's what I want. Hold on. Psalm 17 is not what I want. See, them secret faults and those things of that nature, that ain't no good. You know what I'm saying? Psalms 19 is actually what it requires. Psalms 19 and probably about 8. We'll pick it up at verse 7. Psalms 19 and 7. It says, the Torah of Yahuwah is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of Yahuwah is sure, making wise the simple. The statutes of Yahuwah are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of Yahuwah is pure, enlightening the eyes. The fear of Yahuwah is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of Yahuwah are true and righteous altogether. More to be desired are they than gold, yea, than much fine gold, sweeter also than honey and the honeycomb. Moreover, by them is thy servant warned, and in keeping them is great reward. Who can understand his errors? Cleanse thou me from secret faults. So, when we look at this word for secret again, that's satar, and that's the things that are concealed or hidden carefully to be concealed or to hide oneself. See, how do I make me word this properly? Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 8 first. The one thing about it when we turn around and you deal with the word is that we like to hide certain things. And this is one of the reasons why he sat back and said that you got to beware of the leaven of the scribes and Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. Because he had already told you they outwardly appear righteous, but they full of dead men's bone and hypocrisy and iniquity inwardly. And they like to try to cover and hide those things, not knowing that eventually Yahuwah will manifest and prove it, because you have to be shown, put to the fire, and which we're going to read that in Corinthians in a moment, to see what manner of work that you possess. See, niggas think they can walk around and do this and do that and do this and think that these things are not going to be exposed. Now, you have certain things when he tell you to cleanse you from secret faults. Some secret faults can be just as simply as this. You got issues and matters that you done hid in your heart, and he has to sit back in order to cleanse them of it. You have to express them so you can heal from them. If you keep that stuff to yourself and you don't mention it, then you can never be cleansed from that secret fault, because you walk around holding it on the inside. This is one of the reasons why he tell you to confess your sins. See, we confess our sins and we try to be general with it, instead of sitting back looking at the issues that you have, and the only way that's the same way we were talking about the person who can't read. You know what I'm saying? This man can't read, so he doesn't want to express to anyone that he can't read, because his pride, meaning because he feel embarrassed or ashamed. You know what I'm saying? Most of the times, most people, and this is just general, don't want to express certain things, because most people, when they express their issues, people ridicule them for it. Or they use that to just have something to talk negatively about somebody, versus someone is making themselves vulnerable and letting be known, I need help. This is why most people don't ask for help. You know what I'm saying? This is why most people don't trust in anyone enough to help them, because most people don't want to help somebody. They want something to laugh at or talk about. Yahuwah has a desire to help. And if you call yourselves the servants and sons and daughters of the living Elohim, then you'd have to know that you have to be willing to assist your brother or your sister, which goes into 1 Corinthians 12 about if one mourns, we all mourn. And if one is joyful, we're all joyful. But also we have to keep in mind also this point, that you don't want to be walking around with a pity party. You know what I'm saying? And try to use your sorrow and mourning as a means to try to suck dry everybody else, because you just don't want to stand up and be strong enough to overcome whatever it is that you're overcoming, that you're dealing with. You know what I'm saying? You have to take that into account, because sometimes people just want somebody to feel sorry for them and to keep that sorrow that they have for them over an extended period of time. You know what I'm saying? And that's not fair to the people around you at the same token. You don't want to be selfish in your sorrow. And I think most people can understand what I'm talking about. Ezekiel chapter 8, or what it is, 9. It's chapter 8. We want to look at 8 and about verse 5. Then he said unto me, Son of man, lift up thine eyes now the way towards the north. So I lifted up my eyes the way towards the north, and behold, the northward at the gate of the altar, this image of jealousy in the entry. He said furthermore unto me, Son of man, see thou what thou do, even the great abominations that the house of Yasharal commit here, that I should go far off from my sanctuary, but turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations. Hello?
I'm back here.
Okay. He said, and he brought me to the door of the court, and when I looked, behold, a hole in the wall. Then said he unto me, Son of man, dig now in the wall. And when I digged in the wall, behold, a door. And he said unto me, Go in, behold, the wicked abominations they do here. So when I went in and saw, behold, every form of creeping things, abominable beast, and all the idols of the house of Yasharal portrayed upon the wall round about. And there stood before them 70 men of the ancients of the house of Yasharal, and stood in the midst of them stood Jazaniah the son of Shaphan, with every man his censer in his hand, and a thick cloud of incense went up. Now these men are turning around and they're offering strange fire to a false god. And pretty much everything that we looking at in the defiling of the temple was the worshiping of idols, is what our ancestors were coming in. And clearly when we're dealing with the split of the kingdom, you're dealing with idolatrous worship. And we already established it's iniquity, it's lawlessness. And that's really what it boils down to. This is why Paul says your God is your belly, because your God allows you to do what you want to do. And I'm probably going to touch on the matter in a second. But come over here to 1 Corinthians chapter 3. I got a lot in my head in a short period of time. See, when we turn around and we look at what they were doing, they were trying to cover up those secret faults. And we still got 2 Corinthians 5 and Revelation 20. And they thought that no one would know about them. They thought that they can continue doing what was not meet in the eyesight of Yahuwah in secret, that nobody would know. This is why they hiding. This is why he tells you in John chapter 3 that those who hate the light don't come to the light, lest their deeds should be reproved, because they want to secretly commit their sins. This is why David is saying, cleanse me from secret faults. You want to be cleansed from the iniquities that no one knows. Now you can either be cleansed from them by manifesting them and confessing them, or he can expose you in front of everybody, and it's going to be exposed either way. It's your choice. You can do it through repentance, or you can do it through humiliation. This is why he say, he that covereth his sin shall not prosper, because you're trying to keep them secret, because you don't want nobody to know. Forgetting the whole time that Yahuwah is watching the whole time. Do you not realize every time you went to move to commit a sin that man was watching you the whole time? So when you turn around and you look at it in that aspect, you really truly didn't care nothing about him. You was like, nigga, I know you watching, nigga, F you. Because I'm going to do what I want to do, nigga. What you going to do about it? That's how you have to sit back and look at it. That's how he's receiving it. As harsh as it sounds, that's how he's receiving it. 1 Corinthians chapter 3. 3 and 13. Every man's work shall be made manifest, for the day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire. And the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is. Now, in Jeremiah 17, I put it up there earlier today. He said he tried the reins in the heart to give according to every man his work. So he's going to take you and he's going to test you, and he's going to see what manner of work you're manifesting, because nothing that you do in secret is not going to be made, and he's going to show if your works are righteous or your work is wicked. And we could sit back and try to play games and skirt it and this, that, then the third. You didn't see that man play no game with nobody in this book. All these niggas knew their works was wicked when it was made manifest. You can't sit back and be like, well, what do you think? And what you know what it is. The work is made manifest. You know what the words say. You got to move accordingly. Nobody doubted that Omri was wicked. Nobody doubted that Ahab was wicked. Nobody doubted that Baasha was wicked. Their works bear witness to that when their works were revealed for what sort that it was. 2 Corinthians chapter 5. You want to make sure when your works, when the fire get put to your works, that your work remain. That it come out purified gold on the other side. 2 Corinthians 5 and 11, right? 5 and 9. Well, actually 5 and 10. That's all we want. Well, verse 11 is cool. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Mashiach, that everyone may receive the things done in his body according to that he have done, whether it be good or bad. You know, I seen some brothers talking about something the other day, right? They were clowning like they was like hell is the Greek underworld, Hades, and all this here because of the word term. And niggas was like, I don't fear hell anymore. And I found that to be very funny because we know that it's the lake of fire, the valley of Hinnom, the valley of Jehoshaphat, or whatever you want to, whichever name you want to describe for this particular valley of where these bodies are going to be burned. Because we know this from Isaiah, we know this from whether it's chapter 33 or 66, we know this from Ezekiel chapter 20, that the wicked shall be burned. And they take the words of a Mashiach as if it's Greek mythology, and these people inserted this here, and it really go to show that the fear of Elohim does not exist in men. That they don't really have that respect, reverence, and terror. Because we finna read verse 11. He said, knowing therefore the terror of Yahuwah, we persuade men, but we are manifest under Elohim, and I trust also made manifest in your conscience. See, these men state that we're open under Elohim and what it is that we do. That's why he said, he that come to the light show that his deeds are manifest in Elohim. See, when you doing things in secret, you don't want nobody to know. You tend to hide because you don't want those works to be made manifest, because you don't want nobody to really know how wicked you really are. Do you know what I'm saying? That's why he said they don't come to the light. Guess what? Bashar was walking around like he was this, that, and the third. He was wicked. Omri was walking around like he was this, that, and the third, and he was wicked. Most of the scribes and Pharisees was walking around like they were this, that, and the third, and they were wicked. And we are simple, just like Christian people are simple. Because you sit back and you think because somebody show up every Sabbath, or because they know this man's name, or because they keep laws that are easy for them to keep, because those are things that they don't care about doing, you think they righteous. The whole time they walking in the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, by worshiping golden calves and idols and following after their own heart and own way and leaning to their own understanding to get esteem in the eyesight of men. Because Jeroboam and Omri and all these people, they didn't want the honor that came from Elohim only. They wanted the honor that came from men. That's what they sought. This is why they had no problem doing sins in secret. And Most High willing, we'll be leaning into that when we go to touching about Ahab. All the sins that they committed in secret, that he committed in secret, that God exposed openly. It's no different with Judas. Judas committed a sin in secret and it was revealed. He plotted on this man in secret and it was revealed when he hung himself. It was revealed. You're not going to be walking around plotting and scheming in secret, when no matter what it is that you're doing, and don't think it's going to get exposed. Revelation chapter 20, verse 12. And I saw the dead and small and great stand before Elohim, and the books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which are written in the book according to their works. So all that secret stuff that you did, that you didn't want nobody to know about, he's going to stand out there and he's going to speak on it. So you have an option. You can confess it now and forsake it. Because he that confesses sins and forsake them shall be saved. This is what Proverbs 28:13 tell you. He that covers sin shall not prosper. He that confesses and forsake them shall have mercy. You'll be delivered. Now, when we look at looking at secret faults, don't sit back and look at them as being sins, just frailties of the flesh. Because everybody got frailties, insecurities, and all these things. I done said this here so many different times that in order to heal from a rejected, just like we were talking about the other day, you cannot defeat lust by getting married. You have to deal with the root cause of why you have a problem with lust. A lot of people say, oh, you got a spirit on you and this, that, and the third. But the spirit is a spirit of perversion in your mind, which is rooted in something. You have some people who have a problem with lust because they were molested. So then you have to deal with the pain and the hurt of the molestation in order for them to overcome that. Some people are just perverted, and you have to deal with the matter of why do you have these manner of thoughts in your brain. See, we want to overcome things, but then you don't want to deal with the things that you're dealing with to overcome them. You know what I'm saying? And that's just going to come from sitting back. You can't, let me tell y'all something, right? And I'll just be honest, right? It takes a lot of courage to speak on things that are affecting you, to whomever you choose to speak them to. It takes a lot of courage to do that. Most people don't choose to do that. You can't be concerned about what anybody's going to think. You can't be concerned about what anybody's going to say. Because everybody has an issue before this man cleansed them of anything to make them perfect before his eyesight. Your objective is to heal yourself through your Elohim, so you can become the best version of yourself in Yahushua HaMashiach and be strengthened by him. You cannot be concerned, because niggas is going to run their mouth regardless. People going to think what they going to think about you regardless. But you have to have the courage to stand up and say that I will no longer be ruled by my flesh. I will no longer be ruled by past hurt or insecurities or any of those things, so you can get past those things, so you can be made perfect, because you can't carry that baggage with you. You know what I'm saying? You can't carry it with you in the kingdom of Elohim. You can't carry that with you in the body of Mashiach. You can't carry it with you. You have to release it. You know what I'm saying? These are the minute things that stop us from being perfect, which stop us from receiving that gift, because we holding on to this stuff and it's weighing us down. That's why he say let go of the weight and the sin that easily besets you, and let us run the race with patience, because you got certain thought processing issues. It's holding you down. It's not allowing you to be free, and you got to throw that weight overboard. You know what I'm saying? It ain't just sins. It ain't just people. It could be any manner of pain or life experience that you have that you hold into. Because I was just talking to my cousin about this yesterday. And I ain't going in great detail, but I know that he was telling me certain things that he experienced with my uncle in childhood. Things that he didn't know about because my uncle didn't discuss him. And I was telling him certain things that he didn't know about our grandparents because he had never been told. And that allowed him to understand why his daddy did some of the things that he did. It's because my uncle has not dealt with those things. He just done took them and swept them up under the rug as if they didn't exist. And that stuff permeates with you. No matter if you 50, 60, that stuff still be there when you get older. You know what I'm saying? I know for a fact my mama watched my granddaddy beat her mama regularly. Do you know what I'm saying? That's going to have an effect on her. I wouldn't care how old she got. That's going to have an effect to sit there and watch somebody beat your mama on a day in, day out basis. You know what I'm saying? That's going to have an effect on your psyche when you watch your daddy leave your mama behind after she has a stroke. I think y'all didn't have that much a negative impact on me that one day I seen my daddy, next time I ain't seen him for 23 years. That can have an effect on your psyche if you allow it or if you don't deal with it or reconcile it. I just chose at an early age to suck it up and deal with it like, shoot, he gone. That's his loss. I can't really walk around being mad or upset about the situation. What good is that going to do when I got this matter that I got to deal right here in front of me right now? Being mad or upset is not going to change the fact this nigga's not here. I can't force him to come, and I didn't feel like it was my job to seek him out. I didn't make me. You made me. If you want to see me, you need to put forth the effort. Why am I chasing you down? That's how I viewed it. I didn't look at myself negatively because he didn't come around no more. But I know it can be the opposite for many people, and that's understandable. And niggas don't deal with it. They still walk around with hurt from that. Once I got older, I'm like, shoot, nigga, you definitely got to let that go. Nigga, you grown. You know what I'm saying? So you got to learn to do that. Come on back to 1 Corinthians 16, though. Let's deal with that hill. I don't got to weigh on something else. We're in verse 24. Verse 24. In Samaria. And saying the hill of Samaria of Shemer. And that place is preserved. And that was the owner of the hill where the city of Samaria was built. And he said he bought it for 2 talents of silver, and he built on the hill and called the name of the city which he built after the name of Shemer. So that's preserved. Now when we sit back and we look at a city built on a hill, I want you to sit back and look at something. We look at a city that was built on the hill and was purchased for 2 pieces of silver. Let's sit back and look at a city that was built on the hill that was purchased for 2 pieces of silver. Matthew chapter 26, and let's look at this city. And after that, Exodus chapter 17, and let's look at a city that was built on the hill. And that city was preserved. And we'll sit back and look at how that city was preserved. And that was the owner of the hill that it was named after. He that is preserved is the owner of the hill in Samaria. And remember that Samaria is the Watch Mountain. Matthew 26 and 7. And after that, Exodus chapter 17. I got to crank it up a notch. It's 8:30. My apologies. That'll be 26 and 14. Then one of the 12, called Judas Iscariot, went unto the chief priests and said unto them, What will you give me, and I will deliver him unto you? And they coveted with him for 30 pieces of silver. And from that time he saw opportunity to betray him. So we got somebody that sit back. Basically, the master just got purchased for 30 pieces of silver. Now, how is he this healed? And how is he going to be preserved? Well, let's sit back and look at where they kind of took him up to kill him at. Let's drop down a little bit in Matthew chapter 26. It might be 27. Let me see what we want in Matthew 27. We got to swing over here to John 19. That's where we got to come at. John chapter 19. John chapter 19, about verse 17. Man, I can't even find the spot that I want for that. John chapter 19, that's not what I'm looking for. That's not what I'm looking for. Nevertheless, John 19 and 17. And he, bearing his cross, went forth into a place called the place of the skull, which is called in the Abarim Golgotha, where they crucified him and two other with him on the either side, one Yahushua in the midst. Pilate wrote a title and put it on the stake, and the writing was Yahushua of Nazareth, the Malach of the Yahudim. This title then read many of the Yahudim, for the place where Yahushua was crucified was nigh to the city, and it was written in Abarim and Greek and Latin. Then said the chief priest of the Yahudim to Pilate, Write not the Malach of the Yahudim, but that he said, I am the Malach of the Yahudim. And Pilate answered, What I have written, I have written. Now you know that they done took this man and put him and brought him up on a hill. And in that same place is where he was purchased at, because it's where they brought him on this hill. And this is the Watch Mountain. Now when we look at Watch Mountain, I'm going to put this here, right? Ezekiel 33 or Ezekiel chapter 3 about a watchman, or him that is there to warn the people that the sword is coming. So when you look at the master being up there, he is watching. Let's see how he watches. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 7 and about verse 20. A purpose of a watchman in the watchtower is to warn the people that the sword is coming. The master's whole objective was to warn you to repent from your sins that you might be saved, and to make intercession on your behalf. You have to always remember that this man cares for you, and his whole objective was to heal you and save you. The thing that the man told you is that he didn't come to judge, he came to save. He has not came at this particular time, even to this very moment, to condemn any man. If any man is condemned at this particular time, they condemn themselves through their own unrighteous and wicked works. And that's it, because he's not coming to judge until upon his return that will he sit upon the judgment seat to render according to every man according to his works. So while you know that you're in this time period of this man's long suffering, not the grace period, but his long suffering, that the long suffering of the master is that all might come to repentance and be saved, that you might want to take advantage of that long suffering, and that you might want to endure to the end, because this man had been purchased to be preserved. And see, I prayed the Lamb. I'm going to show you why I prayed the Lamb. I was just reading this the other day. Prayed the Lamb. Yesterday, to be specific. Hebrews chapter 7. And after that, we go to Hosea chapter 12. 7 and 24, I would say. But this man, because he continue ever, have an unchangeable priesthood. Wherefore he is able also to save them to the uttermost that come unto Elohim by him, seeing he ever lived to make intercession for them. For such a high priest become us, who was Kadesh, harmless, undefiled, separate from sinners, and made higher than Shamahim, who need not daily as those high priests to offer up sacrifice, first for his own sins and then for the people. For this he did once when he offered up himself. For the Torah make men high priests which have infirmity, but the word of the oath which was since the Torah make the Son who is consecrated forevermore. So this man offered up himself in order to make intercession for you, but he had to be able to offer himself to be preserved, to be able to make intercession. Now let's look at how he would be preserved. Hosea chapter 12. because that's what it means when it said back of the owner of the city's name, Shemer, the city, the hill is named preserved. When you look at it, Galatians 3 and 13 tell you that Mashiach redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us. So this hill that was purchased was to preserve you. Judas and the chief priests, not knowing, when they coveted to sell this man, that they were selling he that was going to preserve us. They didn't even realize what they were doing. They thinking, okay, we're going to pay him to knock him off, not knowing that them paying to do this was to preserve us so that he could watch on our behalf. Because he watching in the Kadesh mountain on high on our behalf, which goes back to what we read the other day about Asa in 2 Chronicles 16 and 9, that the eyes of Yahuwah go to and through the earth to show himself strong on the behalf of those whose heart is perfect towards him. He tells you in another place that his eyes are continually upon the righteous and his ears is open to their cries. He is continually watching on this mountain for those that belong to him. This is what he was preserved for. But let me show you another miss. And I know I mentioned Exodus 17, and we're going to sit back and line that up with both. Matter of fact, let's do Exodus 17 first and then Hosea chapter 12. Exodus 17 and 1 and then Hosea chapter 12. We ain't got to spend too much time. Some, you know, get a little, I know it get a little nerve-wracking talking about them wicked niggas, but you still need to learn about them wicked niggas and realize there's some people that be around you that be moving just like these wicked niggas. And you ought to be able to discern between the two. Let's look at Exodus chapter 17, about verse 8. Then came Amalek and fought with Yasharal and Rephidim. Moses said unto Yahushua, choose us out men and go out and fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with the rod of Elohim in my hand. So Yahushua did as Moses had said to him and fought with Amalek. And Moses and Aaron and Hur went up to the top of the hill. And it came to pass when Moses held up his hand that Yasharal prevailed. And when he let his hand down, his hand Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands were heavy, and they took a stone and put it under him. And he sat thereon, and Aaron and Hur stayed up his hands, and the one on the one side and the other on the other side. And his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And Yahushua discomfited Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. I also want y'all to keep that in mind, y'all will, about the Shabbat, about them taking down the people with the edge of the sword. But you notice that they're on the top of the hill. And Moses, remember, he was a prophet. And by the hands of a prophet, Yasharal was preserved in this particular matter. Let's see how that will line up with Hosea and see if Hosea tell us the same thing. And look out to see that by a prophet you were preserved, and then by a prophet again you were preserved. And why this hill had to be purchased, and knowing that a man came to preserve you from your iniquities and from your sins, that you ought move accordingly, because we persuade men that you turn away from your iniquities so that you don't have to face the terror of the matter, because it ain't no joke now. Hosea chapter 12 and verse 10. It ain't no joke now. You know, it ain't no need to sit back and play with sin. And there's one other matter too that I want to be able to share with y'all before we get up out of here. And that's how he declared to a man what his thoughts is. And also I told you how he direct people's paths. I don't think a lot of people, I told you a long time ago, somebody told me, so, oh, y'all bring people together to be married. Hey, the master said what Elohim brought together, let no man split asunder. And there's examples of that. Whether it's Isaac and Rebekah, or Rachel and Leah with Jacob. He brought those people together. That was his objective. He brought these people together for the execution of his will. He wanted Rebekah to bring forth Jacob and Esau. That's who he wanted to bring forth those children. That's who he had chosen for that task. And he brought her to Isaac in order to make that happen. You know what I'm saying? This man executes things of that nature. I don't think we even sit back and pay attention to it. He brought Jonathan and David together for the purpose of Jonathan preserving David alive from the hand of Saul. This is why he brought these two men together, to be friends. Friends who loved each other as their own flesh, that surpassed even the love of women. That's how much they loved each other, and it was the purpose of preserving David's soul alive. He joined the apostles to Yahushua HaMashiach because these are the people that he chose to do the labor with this man, and he brought them together how he saw fit. He directed these men's steps to go in the way that he wanted them to go. The same way he could direct Ahab to go right there to Jezebel and serve Balaam so he could die. You have to pay attention to that. That's why And I see that I'm gonna have to go into that in greater detail. That's why I be telling you, you better pay attention to who he directs you to and why he directs you there, and who he joined you to and why he joined you to them. Because it could be for your salvation and your preservation, and it could be for your damnation and your condemnation. You have to really be paying attention. You have to really be paying attention. Don't nothing happen by it. We can't sit back and say we know y'all don't make mistakes and everything's his will and everything, he in control of everything, and then don't sit back and think that he directs the steps and the thought processes that where people go at so that his will is accomplished. He said everything works out to the good of those who are called according to his will. So if it's according to his will, it's going to work out to his honor and esteem and for your preservation. If it's not according to his will, it's still going to work out to his honor and his esteem for your damnation and condemnation. It don't matter. Either way it go, Yahuwah is esteemed. I have also spoken by the prophets, and I have multiplied visions and used similitudes by the ministry of the prophets. Is there iniquity in Gilead? Surely they are vanity. They sacrifice bullocks in Gilgal. Yea, their altars are as heaps in the furrows of the fields. And Jacob fled into the country of Syria, and Yasharal served for a wife. And for a wife he kept sheep. And by a prophet Yahuwah brought Yasharal out of Mizraim, and by a prophet was he preserved. So, say by a prophet. We know that's Moses. He brought you up out of bondage, and by a prophet you were preserved. Now we're going to pull that word for preserve. And I ain't looked at that verse that we just read in a long, long time. But we'll probably deal with that one of these days if we got to work that in. Let's sit back and look at how he mentioned how Jacob served for a wife. It's a lot of, and actually we're going to end up working that in, y'all will, on the Shabbat when we deal with a matter that's in Hosea. Because there's a lot of people ain't willing to do that. And what I'm talking about is serve for the benefit of something without actually getting something for it, any benefit from it before you get it. To do the labor for something, laboring for the hope of receiving that reward, because that's what your love and your heart and desire is towards. That word for preserved in this particular verse is to guard, to observe, to give heed, to keep, to reserve, to protect, to refrain, to abstain, to be kept, or to be guarded. That word is Shemer. So he say, by a prophet were you preserved, or by a prophet you were brought out, and by a prophet you were preserved. Someone to keep you and to guard you and to protect you. Let's sit back and look at that. John chapter 8 verse 32, verse 30, and then John chapter 16. We know that Moses brought you up out of Mizraim to preserve you. And then you sit back and you look at how he brought you out. And then he's standing up there on a hill to come back and discomfort and destroy a people that sought to take you down. And that's going to parallel to the fact of the prince of this world, the rulers of darkness who sought to take you down. So again, by another prophet, he had to preserve you or to keep you and to guard you, to keep you from sin. Because when you sit back and you look at Amalek and all the children of iniquity, they were trying to bring you down with death. What is the byproduct of death? Is sin. Got to pay attention. John chapter 8 verse 30. And he spake these words, and many believed on him. Then said Yahushua to those Yahudim which believed on him, if you continue in my word, then you are my disciples indeed. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Then answered him, we be Abraham's seed, we were never in bondage to any man. How say thou, ye shall be made free? Yahushua answered them, truly, truly, I say unto you, whosoever commits sin is the servant of sin. And the servant abide not in the house forever, but the Son abide forever. If the Son therefore shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. Now you sit back and look at a prophet made you free, and Moses, and he delivered you from the bondage of Mizraim. And now another prophet has come through in Yahushua, and he's delivered you. And notice that we know it is willing with truth. That's the amat, that's the faith or the firmness and the faithfulness in your Elohim. This is what actually is going to set you free. Say the just shall live by their faith. Say where the ruach of the master is, there is freedom. There's freedom there. A lot of us don't have the freedom that we seek because we have not been firm in the faith. You haven't really trusted in the word to set you free. Because if you believe in the word, it will set you free from all things, all hurt, all pains, all lust, all desires. Anything that's contrary to righteousness, you'll be freed from it. But in order to be freed from it, you have to let these things go. Remember what he told them in Mizraim. They left with nothing. They left all that stuff behind. There's a reason why they left all that stuff behind. Because this stuff was going to hold you down and weigh you down, and the way you were going, you couldn't carry it with you. You had to leave all the bondage, the pain, the hurt, all of the stress and all these things that you dealt with the time when you were in Egypt with these people. Leave that in Egypt, as I'm coming to set you free and bring you into a place of tranquility and peace and righteousness, and a land that flow of milk and honey, that your desires shall be met and you will not need for anything. All you have to do is trust in me. And we chose to try to hold on to the pain, the hurt, the bondage, and the suffering, and not openly receive what this man was trying to give us, because we did not trust in him. This is why they didn't want it. That's why they wanted to overtake Moses. And this is why they were talking trash. They didn't trust in him. Therefore, they did not trust in the people that he sent to preserve them and to cover them and to lead them and to guide them and to love them. That's why they rejected him. And we have to pay attention that we don't follow and make that same mistake. I forget, I think it's Bobby Womack. He got a song where he was telling the woman, like, you don't even know God might have sent me here. This man's son, and these people knew this though. These people knew that these men were sent unto them and rejected them because they did not trust in Yah. This is why Omri and all them continue following the way of Jeroboam. Because they didn't trust in Yah. They trusted in themselves and wanted to lean on them golden calves. Because that golden calf would allow them to live how they wanted to live. Therefore, even though they were in rulership and kingdoms and kings and had all this power, they were still not free. They were still not free. And we don't want to sit back and say we have all these things at our disposal and we still not free. Because this man bought a hill in order to watch for your soul. That's what he bought it for, to watch for your soul. Let's sit back and look at that. Hebrews chapter 13. That's exactly what they did. They left it all behind and carried it in their hearts. And that's why they were walking around wandering. That's absolutely correct, Dominique. They may have left it physically behind, but it was still in their heart. And that's what a lot of us do. We saying we leaving the world behind and all this other stuff, but we carrying that stuff in our heart. So you still walking around with it. You still walking around with it. With the Hebrew chapter 13. Where is that chapter verse at? I know I'm looking right at it too. I'll look at verse 7, but I don't think that's what it is. That is definitely not what it is. Ah, there it is. Verse 17 is actually what it was. Verse 13 is 17. It says, obey them that have the rule over you and submit yourselves, for they watch for your souls, as that they must give account, that they may do it with joy and not with grief, for this is unprofitable for you. So when we sit back and we look at Mashiach, that we got to realize that he has rule over us and he watches for our soul. And that when we sit back and we look at it, that at a particular time when he was on that stake, that wasn't gain for us because it was grief for him. But yet he was still on that stake, on that hill, watching. How was he watching? Because he said, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. He was still watching for your soul, that your soul might be forgiven and that you might be preserved. And we have to keep that in mind, that this man was purchased to watch for our souls. You know what I'm saying? He purchased the body with his own blood on the stake so he could watch for your soul. And he was bought for some silver. And he was bought for that specific purpose. And when you sit back and look who bought it, a wicked man bought it. And who bought Mashiach? Wicked people bought him, so that he could preserve those who were not wicked. 1 Kings 16, because I got one more point. I might not even get it all tonight, because we closing in on 9 o'clock. And we definitely got to get on up out of here. But as Dominique just mentioned and just put it in a little better words than I just stated it in, they left all that stuff behind, but they carried it with them in their heart. And it caused their destruction. It caused their destruction because they carried it with them in their heart, even though they left everything behind. And you know, Yahushua, son of Nun, even tried to reiterate to them, to everything that you kid in Egypt and on the other side of the flood, leave it there. Don't bring this here with you. Don't bring this over here with you, because it will destroy you. And they brought it over there with them, and it destroyed them. And I say we're going to sit back and hopefully y'all willing to just sit back and look at it, because I got to try to combine two different things and I got to work it quick. So let me stop talking and let me get on to that. 1 Kings 16. And we are in verse 25. So remember that Omri is the one who bought this hill. He the one who bought the hill. You know what I'm saying? Just the same way that the scribes and the chief priests, I should say, and Judas bought that hill. He said, verse 25, but Omri wrought evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, and did worse than all that were before him. For he walked in the way of Jeroboam the son of Nebat in his sin, wherewith he made Yasharal to sin, to provoke Yahuwah Elohim of Yasharal to anger with their vanities. Now the rest of the acts of Omri which he did in his might that he showed, are they not written in the books of the chronicles of the Maliks of Yasharal? So Omri slept with his fathers, and was buried in Samaria, and Ahab his son reigned in his stead. And in the 38th year of Asa, Malik of Yehuda, began Ahab the son of Omri to reign over Yasharal. Ahab the son of Omri reigned over Yasharal in Samaria 22 years. Ahab the son of Omri did evil in the sight of Yahuwah before all that were before him. And it came to pass, as this, it had been a light thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, that he took to wife Jezebel the daughter of Ethbaal king of Zidonians, and went and served Baal and worshipped him. Now this is also leaning into why he tells you not, because Jezebel was a Canaanite woman, a Zidonian, basically, you know what I'm saying, a Hamite. This is why he told you not to fool with these women of other nations. He said, why don't drink waters out of your own well? Because these people will cause you to go after their gods. This is the whole main thing. And you got to remember what we talked about in Nehemiah in time past. Them people cut off their wives and their children because of this. When they was exposed. Because remember, they were exposed marrying these women and marrying these children. And it came out, they say even the chief priests have been chief in this trespass. And when they got exposed, they had to get rid of their children and their wives. And I don't think many people would be willing to do that in these days and time, to get rid of their wives and their children because of their trespasses and sins, or to get rid of anything that they hold near and dear and that they love because of their trespasses and sins that they knowingly and willfully committed. Because them people knew what they were doing. He said he reared up an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he built in Samaria. And they have made a grove, and they have did more to provoke Yahuwah Elohim of Yasharal to anger than all the Maliks of Yasharal that were before him. In his days did Hiel the Bethelite build Jericho. He laid the foundation thereof, and Abiram his firstborn, and set up the gates thereof, and his youngest son Segub, according to the word of Yahuwah which he spake by Yahushua the son of Nun. Now we're going to sit back and we're going to look at these men's names. I dealt with this a very, very long time ago. And we're going to deal with it again. When we look at Hiel the Beth, and this is not a good thing that they're building this house. Building Jericho. Hiel means Elohim lives. That's what his name means. So in the days of the man whose name means Elohim lives, he's rebuilding Jericho. You know, the Jericho means it's moon. Or it's the month. So keep that in mind. He said he laid that foundation in his firstborn son. That firstborn son being Abiram, which means my father is exalted, or the exalted one is my father. Then he said he set up the gates in his youngest son, Segub, which means exalted as well. All of these young men rebuilt Jericho. Let's look what he said about Jericho in Joshua chapter 6. It's not a good thing, but it is a good thing in the same breath. It's a good thing for us. It wasn't a good thing for them at the time. Joshua chapter 6. And you're going to see why. Because Jericho was cursed. That was a cursed place. Not to be rebuilt. Joshua chapter 6, verse 17. Y'all know about the walls of Jericho falling and all of those things. So we're not finna go on that in great detail at this particular time. Look at what he tells you about it. Well, we'll read verse 16. Joshua 6 and 16. It came to pass that at the seventh time, when the priests blew with the trumpets, Yahushua said unto the people, shout, for Yahuwah hath given you the city. And the city shall be accursed, even it and all that are therein, to Yahuwah. Only Rahab the harlot shall live, she and all that are with her in the house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. And ye in any wise keep yourselves from the accursed thing. Listen what he tell you. And ye in any wise keep yourselves from the accursed thing, lest you make yourselves accursed when you take of the accursed thing and make the camp of Yasharal accursed and trouble it. But all the silver and gold and vessels of brass and iron are consecrated unto Yahuwah, and they shall come into the treasury of Yahuwah. We'll drop down a little bit, about verse 25. You can read all the stuff about them tearing the city up. And Yahushua saved Rahab the harlot alive in her father's household and all that she had, and she dwelt in Yasharal even unto this day, because she hid the messengers which Yahushua sent to spy out Jericho. Yahushua adjured them at that time, saying, Cursed be the man before Yahuwah that rise up and build this city Jericho. He shall lay the foundation thereof in his firstborn, and his youngest son he shall set up the gates of it. So Yahuwah was with Yahushua, and his fame was noised throughout all the country. So it says the man that does this is cursed. The man that rebuilds Jericho is cursed. Now we turn around and we look at, in the days of Hiel the Bethelite, the one who Elohim means Elohim lives in the house of Elohim, because that's what the Bethelite going to take you to, in the house of Elohim. Hold on. Elohim lives in the house of Elohim, built Jericho. So now we need to look at something. Just to get, I mentioned it already. Let's look at Galatians 3 and 13. There's a reason why he went through all this here, because when you look at everything that was going on in that whole particular area, who would have turned around and moved him to do this? Nobody but Ahab would get behind. But at the same time, it's bearing witness to something else. Galatians 3 and 13. If I can get there to it, so I can get y'all out of here. The other point, I have to wait till the Sabbath with that directing steps. Mashiach have redeemed us from the curse of the Torah, being made a curse for us. For it is written, Cursed is everyone that hang on a tree, that the blessing of Abraham might come on the Gentiles through Yahushua HaMashiach, that we might receive the promise of the Ruach through faith. Now keep this in mind when we turn around and we begin to look at 1 Kings chapter 18 on the Shabbat. So you have to file this in your brain. Now, Bethel is the place of worship where Elohim lives, and he said, whoever rebuilds it in the month, in the city of the month, that it shall be cursed. And that he would set the foundation, and he that the Father exalted, which is his firstborn, and set up the gates thereof, and his youngest son, which also means exalted. And then this would be according to what Yahushua said. Whoever rebuilt this place would be cursed. Now let's turn around and let's sit back and see why it would be cursed. And I want you to sit back and look at Amos chapter 8, I want to say. Now this cursing is also going to bring the blessing upon all these people. That's why you need to keep that in mind when we turn around and we look at what's going to occur in 1 Kings chapter 18 and everything that was going on at that particular time. Because Ahab is building all of these groves and worshiping the Baal, which we already read in Deuteronomy 7, which is an accursed thing. Jericho was an accursed place because it was a place of idolatrous worship. That's why they tore it down to the ground. Remember, Mashiach had became a curse, therefore he was torn down to the ground. But then he had to be rebuilt. So nevertheless, and just sit back and look at it in this aspect. We are all a cursed thing. Because he said, the soul that sinneth, it shall die. The curse of Elohim abides on us because we abide in sin. Therefore, we abide in death, and the curse is with us. Therefore, that place has to be destroyed, and we can no longer touch the accursed thing any longer. And that's what we have to keep our mind. And the reason why we still touching the accursed thing, because we still carrying all that stuff with us. We're not allowing the foundation of that city to be destroyed. We have to allow these things to be destroyed. And then these secret faults won't well up and you won't have no problems. Now, don't get me twisted. The book say, that you will, offenses must come. You know what I'm saying? You're going to offend each other from time to time. If you think that you're not going to offend each other, then you being kind of naive. You're going to offend each other as friends. You're going to offend your wife. You're going to offend your husband. You may even offend your children. The purpose of it is when you do this, will you seek forgiveness from them if you know that you have offended them? Because if you love somebody, you'll forgive them. And if you love somebody, you'll correct it once they let you know that this bothers me. But the thing is that things can never be changed if you don't never open your mouth. And if somebody is telling you that something is offending them or hurting them, and then you don't take knowledge of it, then you're telling them that you don't care. So when we sit back and the word is letting us know that our behavior is offending Yahuwah and it's not just in his eyesight, and we continue to do it, we're telling him that we don't care. That we don't care that this offends him. We have to really pay attention to more of what our actions say versus what our mouth say. Because he said their mouth they show much love, but their heart is far from me, for it go after their covenants or their desires. Don't let that be the case. I forgot where I was going. Oh, Amos chapter 8. I'm running too long. We got to go. I don't really want to keep this on Amos 8. This actually might be Amos 6. I got to make sure I'm in the right spot. Amos 4. That's what I want. Is that what I want? Yeah, Amos 4 and 4. We'll read Amos 4 and 4 for the moment. Dang, I just was looking at this yesterday. He said, come to Bethel and transgress, and Gilgal and multiply transgressions, and bring your sacrifices every morning and your tithes after 3 years. And offer a sacrifice of thanksgiving with leaven, and proclaim and publish the free offerings. For this like you, O children of Yasharal, saith Yahuwah Elohim. That's exactly what I want. So he say this likes you to bring your sacrifice. He say, you come up here on your sacrifices and your sacrifices every morning, and you come in to transgress in Gilgal, and you come into the place where your sins were rolled away. So he say, should we, after we've been made free in Mashiach, because he the minister of sin, he say, Elohim forbid. I find myself to be a transgressor if I rebuild the things that I have destroyed. If Jericho had been destroyed, then what purpose do we have of rebuilding it if it's cursed? So if we saying that the body of sin is being destroyed, then what business do you have it rebuilding it if it is cursed? Knowing that he that the Elohim lives in the house of Elohim, knowing that Hayil is representative of Mashiach being enough. I got to paraphrase because we're 3 minutes now. I got to let y'all go. And we'll deal with it on the Shabbat. Knowing that Hayel's name means Elohim lives, and he's the Bethelite from the house of Elohim. Knowing that we're supposed to let Elohim live in our house or in our mortal bodies. And that this was set up in his firstborn son, who his father has exalted. And he set up the gates, and he that is exalted. Then we know that the defense and the protection is set up in the one that the Father exalted. This is my beloved Son in whom I'm well pleased. And that we ought to allow him to live in us, even though you're in a cursed vessel, meaning this mortal body. Because even though this place was cursed, even though your flesh is cursed because of the likeness of sinful flesh, that sinful flesh was condemned in the flesh by Elohim who lives, because that's why he sat back and told you, he said, Yahushua is not here, he is risen. He lives in the house of Elohim, which goes back to him being in the watch mountain, which we read in Hebrew chapter 7, to make intercession on your behalf, because he has been exalted to be a prince and a savior for the forgiveness of sins for the house of Yasharal, that you might be redeemed, all because a heel was purchased, because a prophet brought you out of Egypt, and by a prophet you were preserved. But y'all will get the rest on the Shabbat, because it's 2 minutes to 9, and we're not going to keep going. So hallelujah for Yahusha. We'll complete all of this here on Shabbat, y'all willing.